Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the hearing and your bill and the witnesses. I also want to mention on Senator Cantwell's issues on ocean acidification. I think it's something we need to work importantly on. And she mentioned Pebble, and I also think, and I think for the Alaskans, it's important that it's critical as the permitting process moves forward that science, not politics, drives a federal government agency decision-making. I think Senator Cantwell alluded to that. I have certainly encouraged the federal agencies here to get out to Alaska to hear directly from people in the state, including in Bristol Bay, which they did this summer. You know, I'm sure you saw, but the EPA and the Department of Interior recently submitted comments to the Corps' draft EIS, and many of their comments were highly critical of the draft EIS. The burden of proof is now on Pebble and the Corps to substantially address these concerns based on science as required by federal law. This is a high bar, and as I've repeatedly said, we can't trade one resource for another in that region, but that's an important issue that I just wanted to mention to our Alaska witnesses. Mr. Oliver, I appreciate the fact, and I think, to be honest, the chairman's calling of this hearing probably helped spur a little bit of action last night, where we got a number of declarations announced. I think that's important. But you mentioned at your outset, I want you, both you and Ms. Baker, to just hit on this issue of the point of the hearing, which is how can we improve the process to ensure, I'm not going to go through the list of how long this has taken on a number of these, but how can we improve the process to ensure that it is more responsive? And let me just kind of throw out another question to both of you. You know, part of the takeaway, and I think part of the point of the bill, is that NOAA and significantly OMB might have too much discretion under current law, and that not enough direction when it comes to the fishery disaster process. The chairman's bill seeks to remedy that. Do you agree with that direction, for us to be more directive and take a little bit of the discretion away, to be honest, Mr. Oliver, you and OMB and others? So again, kind of an open question, but I really want you to address how can we make this so our fishermen are not waiting for 3-4 years, which is what has typically happened. Maybe we can start with you, Mr. Oliver.
Yes, in short, I agree with you, Senator. We do need firmer guidelines.
Direction from us.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just to elaborate briefly, you know, sometimes we get disaster requests before fishing season is ended, and sometimes there's a delay there because we really have to wait till the end of the season. But I think if we have clear direction to people that are requesting determination as to what information we need to start that determination, that can save some time. If you put strict timelines on us, our process, with our review process with NIMS, with the department, with NOAA, with OMB, that'll force us to get our work done quicker.
So definitely one element of legislative change that we can focus on is giving you strict timelines.
Yes, sir, I think so. And also perhaps clear direction on what allowable uses are for funding and what the prioritization of those uses are, because I think a lot of the spend plan review process gets caught up sometimes on those issues. So clear direction in that aspect as well.
So Ms. Baker, I want to ask you kind of to follow up on that, but also if you can address this issue, which as I know is important in Alaska, that allowing for research for part of the money is a way to better understand, you know, the challenges that we have so these disasters don't happen again. Is that an important component of the disaster relief money that the state or other states will be getting? So again, how to make it more effective, and is research important to keep that in there?
Thank you for the question, Senator Sullivan. On the first one, for the most part, I would agree with Mr. Oliver's response in that I think improving the process could involve some clarification through legislation, regulations that Mr. Oliver mentioned, in terms of what the steps are in the process, information required at the different steps of the process, eligibility for determination of a fishery disaster could benefit from some clarification. And especially what I focused some of my testimony on today, clarification of requirements for an evaluation of the actual disaster relief plans that Mr. Oliver also mentioned. I think there could be some clarification. Establishing timelines also would really benefit, I believe, the whole process, and I was pleased to hear Mr. Oliver mention that as well. So
Research?
And so, yes, thank you for mentioning that as well. I think while it is implicitly an eligible use of disaster relief funds, it just occurred to us in examining the current process that it doesn't appear to be explicitly specified as an eligible use of disaster relief funds. And we, for the reasons that you mentioned, feel like that is a really fundamental eligible use to help our ability to prevent those fishery disasters, commercial fishery failures in the future. It's really a component part to try to get to the root cause and help us establish fishery management measures that will help us avoid those disasters in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator